Hello and welcome to Beebe Hospital Face Mask Tutorial. First I'm going to show you supplies. You should have received either elastic or ties and a wire, nose wire, and then 3 pieces of fabric. You're going to get the plain cotton, the t-shirt, and then the pattern fabric piece. Since your pieces are already cut, you can go ahead and start on step 7. So we're just going to mark the pieces. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, your piece might be already cut like this. If it is cut like this, you just need to mark with your fabric marker I'm using, or you can use something that just marks sort of a line in the fabric itself. Now do make sure that you remove this with some water, like mine is removable with water. After you sew it, remove it with water and then continue, because it'll be inside and you won't necessarily be able to get the color off then. So I'm just going to mark along the edge of my template, and that'll be where I sew. Try to do as little of sewing as possible. You want to leave the top of this not sewn, and maybe even a little bit more of that, because this is where you're breathing through and you do not want any sewing along that part. If you have sewing right here, that will cause particles to come through that crack where you sew. So where your mouth actually is the most vulnerable part, so you do not want to sew along that seam. You want it to be a nice strong fabric there. And you're going to go ahead and do that with all 3 pieces. Do make sure that it is the wrong side of the fabric that is getting marked. You can see that this is the wrong side of the flowered fabric. We are going to sew along these lines, and I'll show that next. If you're following along on your paper, we're ready for step number 11. Step number 11 is trimming where we've sewn. So we have all the pieces out here, and we're just trimming off. I've done these 2 already. I'm going to use my rotary cutter and just go ahead and trim about 1/4 inch away from that seam. You do not want to cut over your stitching. Step 13, we're going to hem the jersey or t-shirt fabric. That's the next step. Okay. To get that ready, you're going to go ahead and find you're on the wrong side of your t-shirt. You're opening it up. The nose at the top. You're going to go all the way to the right, and you're going to fold it over 1/2 inch, and then you're going to fold it over another 1/2 inch. Go ahead and pin that in place, and you're just going to stitch right along the inside of that. This will make it so that it can have the Hepa pocket, and it's going to separate the top layers or the front layers from the back layers on this side. This opening will only be on one side, so only do this on the right side. We're ready for step number 14 now, and this can be one of the trickiest steps, and we have to get this one right for it to turn out correctly. We're going to go ahead and get them lined up and ready, and then I will tell you the next step. Okay, so the piece that goes on the top, this is your plain white fabric. Okay, it's going to be facing so that the right side is upwards. Okay, all right, so that's the first one on the stack. The next one is also going to be facing with the right side upwards. This is your t-shirt fabric. The first one was your cotton, plain cotton t-shirt fabric. The seam we sewed, the back side of it should be on the back side along with these seams, and we're just going to sit that right on top. Okay, so we have the right side up, the right side up, and then on this one the right side is going to go down on top of it. Okay, all right, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin it, and I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done pinning it. Okay, we're ready for step number 15. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I pinned it so that it's kind of clear, and then I'm going to sew it like the directions say. We're sewing along the top, along the seam, and the bottom only. The sides will be done separately, so don't sew them yet. I went ahead and pinned it as well in the middle here, because then I can have all my seams lined up. I like that to be neat and tidy when I'm sewing it. So just make sure you get that straight so it's all lined up. Step 16, I'm going to show you how to invert the mask after you've sewn the top and the bottom. Okay, it doesn't matter which end you go on at this point, but you're going to go ahead and find your t-shirt layer inside and your front, and you're going to be between them. The plain fabric on the outside will be with the t-shirt fabric. So you're going to take it and turn it, pushing the t-shirt fabric to one side and your pattern fabric to the outside. Right. And it should kind of fall into that. You're going to do some more stitching so it will hold it tighter. But for now, you've got that piece. All right. So now you have the front of the mask and the back of the mask. Step 17, we're going to be turning in each of the ends, and they are just a little different because one has a pocket on one end and one does not. Okay, so you're going to turn in the side without the hemmed t-shirt. You're going to turn that in about 1/2 inch and go ahead and iron it and pin it so it's ready to be sewn. We're going to also insert some elastic in there for the next step, so I'll show you that. I'm going to go ahead and get this pinned so it stays. Okay. All right, the other end, you're only tucking in 2 layers because you've already hemmed this one. So what happens is it's going to create still a pocket on the inside. You can kind of still see, you can get, that's where the Hepa filter goes. If you decide not to use Hepa filters and you don't want to create them that way, that's fine. You wouldn't have had to hem this, and you can actually just sew it just like the other side. But all of them that we've been making for the hospital, we are leaving room for that. So you're going to turn it in about 1/2 inch, iron it, and pin it, and then we're ready to put in our elastic pieces before we sew everything up. Step 18. In this step, we'll be attaching the elastic and then sewing around the entire outside of the mask. You will want to do a close stitch, not a 1/4 inch like the rest of them have been. You want to get like as close to the edge as you can, and I'll show you what that looks like when I'm finished. Okay. The elastic I have pinned on the one side already, so I've tucked it into on either end, making sure it doesn't twist. It's nice and straight so it doesn't twist on your ear or something like that. I have it in to about here, so about 1/2 inch in, about where the fabric is tucked into. Alright, so I'm just going to tuck it in the other side, and you can see that. So just tuck it in. Pin it. All the way up to the top. Tuck it in and pin it. Okay. You don't have to worry about this pocket being closed because this seam is farther back than the side seam. So you're going to sew all the way around the entire outside of the mask. Alright, you could call it quits here and you'd have a great finished mask. You can see that it has the Hepa filter pocket, and it fits pretty well. Some people are finding that they need to tuck it in the side or do the smaller size template. Probably if you do need to put a tuck in it, then you need the smaller one. If you need a larger one and this doesn't cover your whole mouth, then you would go with the large size. This is a medium. So this will fit most people. This one fits me pretty well. It's a little tiny big, but I didn't have to tuck it too much if I do tuck it. So I probably won't. I'll probably leave it like this. We're going to go ahead and do the next step, which is to add the wire. Your wire has already been cut, but if it's not, go ahead and cut your 4-inch piece of wire and curl the ends. That piece is here. All right. And then after that, you will go ahead and put the wire on to measure it and use pins to mark it. I'm going to show you that part. The bottom step down there, step 4 on the wire part, is the way they describe it is a little funny. So I'm just going to sew it, part of it for you, and then show you how I did it, because I wasn't, like, the picture doesn't actually show what they did. I'm pretty sure they did it the way I'm going to show you. Okay, so I have my mask laid here, and the wire, I've placed it right here so I can kind of eyeball where the beginning and end is. You can measure it if you want, or just eyeball it. You measure where the end is, okay? And this, you're basically showing how big the pocket that it's going to go to in will be, okay? And then what I will be doing, let's line that back up and make sure I'm right. That looks pretty good. Okay. What I will be doing is sewing 1/2 inch down, and then just along the top of here, that 1/2 inch all the way around. And then I did stitch forward and backward here. And then I took it off the machine to put the wire in, because the way they were saying was just to stick the wire in while it's under there and then close it. But I decided it was easier if I stopped there. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so you can see how I have sewn down and then across here and stopped at where my other pin was. I'm now ready to insert this wire in. So I will go into the pocket side. That's, by the way, that's the side I left open. So where the pocket side was, so that it's easier. All right, so I'm gonna stick it in there. Stick it into that little opening. Kind of feed it through. Sometimes it sticks right here at the seam, but it should go all the way through. Go ahead and feed it all the way up. All right, and then I'm going to close up my opening, and I'll just sew this spot, and then it'll be done. All right, there you go, folks, a finished mask. I sewed it straight up there. This makes it so it conforms around the nose. This keeps people with glasses. It won't come up into fog up in the top. It also helps to seal it better so that you are breathing through the mask itself and not around it. So this is a pretty nice mask, I think. And I'll probably be wearing mine tomorrow that I just made and making some more again for the hospital. So thank you for watching. Hope this helps.